service road is the one that would continue over towards Ballpark Way, Baird Farm Road, and the driver looks like he is going to continue along that service road. Intersection there, I can't tell, did he run the red light there? Hard to tell from that angle from Sky 4.
I can tell you guys quickly, I just got a text through Brandon Todd from Kevin Staples, one of our photographers. He was right there as the chase passed, and he said police were on their loudspeakers, Chip, telling the driver, quote, stop and give up now. Now would be a good time to give up. So they've been, I imagine this has probably been continuing through most of this chase. The driver was on the cell phone.
This is a strip center that the driver has pulled into, and you will see some of the businesses in this area.
Now this driver's being dangerous. Now this is where police might get more aggressive, ripping through parking lots like that.
No doubt about it. I would think that there needs to be some Arlington officers that get up ahead of this if they're watching. At this point, the driver is making some crazy maneuvers, going right back to I-30. At this point, it almost looks like the driver might start putting it into another gear, thinking, okay, now I've done what I think I can do to get the police cruisers off my back, and now I'm going to try to create some separation. But then there are more Arlington officers and Fort Worth officers right there in that intersection. This is now going back across the I-30, over the top of I-30, and it looks like the driver is now going to possibly make what I would think is not a good move and go back onto I-30 now in the westbound direction. So if you know of a loved one that takes I-30 now westbound from Grand Prairie to Arlington and Fort Worth on a daily basis, it's a good time to notify them that they too need to be prepared for the possible scenario of running into a huge rolling closure or a slow speed event. Again, about 10 to 15 miles an hour, if you're just joining us, has been this chase along the main lanes and now just recently onto the service roads, both in the eastbound and now westbound side. And this is going back over around the Cooper and Collins interchange.
Chief Williams, you're still with us. These latest maneuvers change anything in tactics you think might happen here?
Yeah, absolutely. It becomes a game changer. You can see that now that the individual has become more agitated for whatever reason, and it makes it now things are a little bit more elevated for the officers. And so now you start looking at all the options that you have to bring this chase to a successful conclusion. It's just the individual that's made it a game changer now for the officers.
So at this point right now, Steve, what's happening is that the driver has gone back over around the Collins interchange, and that's a kind of a complicated cloverleaf area there, and then is working back to get back to the service road. Lamar is just to the north of here, and you can see the main lanes of I-30 are still flowing along freely, and that's simply because the police cruiser, the suspect's vehicle has not gone back into the main lane. So that is the interchange around, I believe that is going to be Fielder at that point, and then continuing back onto the main lanes. This police chase, Steve, I would have to agree, is something that needs to change quick and bring this to an end. I don't like the fact that he is now going into more heavily populated areas, and by that I mean into areas where you have shopping centers, etc. Folks may be milling about, going from store to store. They are walking through this area, and here comes this person that's a wrongdoer going through lights.
It could turn into a neighborhood as well, right?
Yes, and then it could get even worse. And this is now going just north of Lamar and into a residential area, which will be just north of here.
Going faster than the driver ever was on the freeway, seems like.
I'd say the speeds are about the same now, 10, 15 miles an hour. Lots of stop signs through here.
Northbound
right now
Cooper.
They're going on to Cooper Street and continuing to go now on to Cooper. And at this point, it's anyone's guess as where they're going to go next.
Right. You know, Chip, if you don't mind me.
Sure, please.
Something. in situations like this, when you see them exit off on a freeway at a particular exit, generally they're going into areas in which they are familiar with,
Yes.
and they're hoping that the officer is unfamiliar with those areas, and they're very familiar with those areas. But it's in a situation like this, especially as long as this has been going on, we already have the resources on the ground that's available to us, as well as the resources in the air. So it doesn't matter where you go, we've got you covered on both ground as well as in the air. And the air unit is there to assist the officers in locating the suspect, no matter where he stops or he decides to bail out.
Is there any thought at this point as to possibly letting the driver get a little bit more space, knowing that you have all of those safety procedures in place? Let him get into a place that he's really comfortable with and maybe be able to do, for example, they'd probably run the license plate by now, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Everything that we need to try to know about this individual, other than the reasons why he's doing this, and we may have some idea about that, I can almost guarantee you that those detectives working in the fusion centers and behind the scenes have already gathered that information, and that information is being relayed to the officers in the squad cars.
That just leads me to the next level, which is, okay, if this driver, let's say, is going into a space that he or she is the most familiar with, then do you let that individual think, okay, this chase is over, and then just go to a spot where they think that that the person is most likely to go to next in a more relaxed state?
That's one of the options that some of the supervisors that are involved in chases actually.
To the east, this is going to be really close to the River Legacy Park area, and continuing over toward Lincoln. It would be on the northern edge if this driver goes past Lincoln Drive, which would be the next intersection you would see come into the shot. It would go along the northern edge of Chester W. Ditto Golf Course, a public golf course in the Arlington area.
Lincoln.
There is Lincoln.
Yeah, there's Lincoln.
And so at this point, the next intersection would be Collins, and then at that point at 157, if the driver were to go up to the north, that would take the driver into an area that is kind of a floodplain and going up towards Trinity Boulevard. The other area along Green Oaks, it's a windy path that would ultimately end up back toward 360 by going over past Ellis Elementary, and that's another concern.
This is residential now.
Okay.
Yeah, once you get into residential areas, it's easier then again to cover these chases and control them a little bit better on an open freeway.
I can't. I completely agree. So the driver just turned onto, I assume, Monarch Drive. So if an officer were to stop at Monarch Drive, another officer go stop at Sunrise Drive, another officer go and stop at Sundance Drive by taking Lincoln South, the person would be completely boxed in. The driver could go around and around in circles ad nauseum and never be able to get out of that area.
And Chip, we think this is also very close to Sherrod Elementary School.
Yes, it is. Sherrod Elementary School is just south of Green Oaks and Lincoln Drive by about, I'd say, 150, 200 yards or so.
Yeah, in a situation like that, then the officers are on the phone with the school district that's in the area, and what they'll ask to do is to hold the kids, delay the release of the children if they haven't already been released, to delay the release of the children in the event the chase comes through that particular neighborhood.
The driver, I can tell you now, everyone, is now back on Lincoln and then skirting along the western edge of the Chester W. Ditto Golf Course and is approaching Brown Boulevard. So it's gone out of that little community, that little neighborhood that we were talking about earlier.
So, Chief Williams, nothing changes when you're into residential areas of Arlington. Arlington police will still hold back, even though Fort Worth police might be unfamiliar with the area?
Oh, the Fort Worth police will stay with them. I'm quite sure that they've patched into the Arlington Police Department to help them. In addition to that, when I was in the helicopter unit, it doesn't matter what city that they were in. We had the resources, the mapping resources up in the helicopter to let the ground officers know exactly where they were. And you know, and the thing that you want to be concerned about in these situations, not just the intersections, but the people coming out of their driveways to go and pick up their children from school, or the soccer moms going for after-school activities, or the mothers that are just going to the shopping mall during the afternoon, early afternoon hours. This is always an issue in cases like this.
Is this back on Lamar, guys? I think we're back on Lamar.
No, the Washington. We think it's Washington.
Back on at Washington and going back into another residential community. This is just south of the Villas in Arroyo Springs area. And Washington Drive is another one of these residential streets, 2 lanes in both directions. The good news here in this part of Arlington is there's no elementary school or middle school anywhere in the immediate area. Rockmore Elementary School is just south of where this person is, south by southwest, but the driver's moving east away from Rockmore, which is good, and heading back towards Collins if the driver were to continue on Washington, swerving sometimes right on the double yellow lines. Those kind of maneuvers has been consistent throughout this chase, just weaving in and around. And again, dangerous situation if there's somebody who's getting out of the driveways, etc. Just like the Officer Williams just said, this is going to be a problem. Chief Williams looks like this is going to go back onto some bigger roadways and back onto Cooper now, or Collins now.
Back on Collins.
And this is going back down to the south, towards Lamar, and back down towards I-30 again.
Yeah, you know, in some of the in some of the shots you see that you have some of the Arlington police officers trying to get to the intersections. You know, you just can't dedicate enough resources to these type of chases to ensure the safety of everyone, either involved or that are not involved at this point. So it makes it difficult. But I know that the Arlington police officers, every once in a while, you'll see them involved in some of the scenes that you're broadcasting out there at the intersections to try to get the people to stay out of the intersections.
Yeah, not